Welcome to Zooming to Webinar Success. If you're needing to plan a virtual meeting and are stuck, this series is for you. Full-time voice artist Grant Holmes is also a busy virtual meeting manager and on-screen host. Learn tips and tricks to having successful virtual meetings from step one. And now, here's your host, Grant Holmes, the Webinar Guy.
Welcome to episode 26 of Zooming to Webinar Success. Hey, I'm Grant. My clients call me the Webinar Guy. Today we're going to talk about doing polls during your webinar or virtual presentation. Now, in the last two episodes, I talked about how to best handle hecklers. And in the last episode, 25 specifically, to mute or not to mute. And if you missed it, head over to thewebinarguy.com and look for episode 25. You know, it's hard to believe that I'm at episode 26 already. My goodness. And slowly but surely, I'm working through the Webinar Guy's webinar prep sheet. And there are more than 80 considerations included. And if you'd like a copy, hit the website. The address is below. And sign up for my newsletter list or drop me an email at the address below on the screen, and we'll make sure you get a copy. Just make sure you ask for it. Okay, so the point here is that I feel like I've barely scratched the surface on webinar or virtual meeting preparation. On that prep sheet, currently number 93 in that growing list is the questionnaire if you're including polls in your presentation. So let's look at the question of why you would do a poll. But first, let's even take a step back from that. What are you doing? Are you planning a webinar, a virtual presentation, a virtual summit, a meeting? What's the goal of the session? I have a previous episode on that, by the way, and I'll try to put the number on the screen if I can remember. Depending on the platform or the type of session you're planning, you may or may not be able to do a poll. But let's just say, to keep this simple, that we can. So why you do a poll, to me, covers two essential topics. The first is getting audience engagement or interaction. Second, get information that may or may not be important to the presentation proper, or more importantly, maybe to your business goals. In my mind, the most attractive thing here is to get audience engagement. You're a great speaker. You've got great content, but it's also great to have more interaction, more engagement. Adding a poll early can add interest to your presentation. And there are literally no limits to polls. But a warning here, use them judiciously, please. Going overboard will wear your audience out. Trust me on this. And if I'm not sure there's a right number to do, just use them for real purposes. Also, tell your audience the purpose of your poll. Help them engage. So let's just say we're doing a webinar on Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. I do a whole bunch of these for clients, especially in foreign countries. Say we're trying to determine the demographics of our audience. So I'd tell the audience, we'd like to know more about your cryptocurrency interest, and we're going to do a simple poll to find out. So that kind of preps them for the fact that we're going to do something a little different and gets them finding the thing. So then in the poll, we might have questions like, what is your current level of involvement in cryptocurrency? And our choices for the poll might be, I've been investing for more than a year. I've been investing less than a year. I've been researching, but I don't have any experience. I'm interested in investing, but this is my first exposure to the whole thing. One client recently had nearly 100 attendees on their last webinar. Now, most were invited to attend, so my client knew who they were for the most part, probably had their email. So how could you use that data? Well, I'd immediately be reaching out to those last two groups to get them on our platform. And then to have those that have been investing get touched, but have less than stellar results maybe. And I'd leave that last group, the more experienced investors, for later follow-up. Based on the results of that survey during the webinar, the next part of my presentation might jump to a part that the script concentrates on for the goals of the client. in this case, the newer users. And we would have that all set up ahead of time. I could follow up that with a poll immediately and ask, well, for those of you who are considering investing, and get more definition on the prospects and see if the numbers work. There are just so many ways to use polls. I hope that you can see that when you get information, you also get engagement. You could do a poll for fun too, but keep the fun related to the subject. Just polling my cryptocurrency audience on who's ever blown up a balloon would be both irrelevant and confusing to the audience. And yeah, I know that was a stretch, but that was the whole point. Another way to do an informal poll is to just have people react in the chat box if you set it to be available. Questions here can be anything. Well, a fun one, common one is always, hey, drop your location in the chat box. Or if you're new to cryptocurrency, type your name. That kind of serves two goals, right? Do you send emails to your partners in a totally different kind of webinar? And so on and so forth. There are other ways to just get people involved. And again, back to subject matter and what you're trying to accomplish. I want to do a poll right now. Let's use the comment box if you would. I know this isn't interactive. You're just watching a webinar, a presentation. But if you like these videos and podcasts, thank our podcast sponsor, thewebinarguy.com. Yeah, that's me. I know that was cheap but easy. And if you would, I'd really like to know that you enjoy them. Drop me a comment. Knowing how to set up polls and getting them right are really critical for professional webinar management. And when you begin to plan an all-day event, a virtual summit, or your first webinar and want to get all the details right, hit me at webinarpro@thewebinarguy.com. Sorry for the confusion. Or visit our website, thewebinarguy.com, and use one of our contact forms. We'd be honored to work with you. Thank you. I'll be doing more on this subject, as you can appreciate. I'm just wading in, I feel like, and I'll be doing different subjects. So please subscribe and tell a friend or two. And if you have a subject you'd like me to cover, hey, let me know, okay? This series is for smaller organizations and solopreneurs that may not be tech savvy or don't know all the steps or don't want to know all the steps. Over the series, I'm leading you through the significant decisions and capabilities you need to Zoom to webinar success. And as always, if you need help now, don't hesitate to reach out at webinarpro@thewebinarguy.com. Thanks for watching. We'd love to hear your comments and questions. Don't forget to tell a friend. And if you're listening on the podcast audio, thanks for listening.